Well, guys, if you remember, I said last week that there is no way a character is going to be resurrected on a show like Game of Thrones. And after this, damn was I wrong. Hey guys, Cameron for Game of Thrones Season 6, Episode 2, Home, and like I said, I was very wrong with what I said last week, I know that, and of course, right after I said that, someone did correct me that there was a character resurrected in Season 3. I wouldn't remember that because I quickly binged Season 3 before Season 4 came out, and I don't remember Season 3 as well as I do Seasons 4 and 5, I definitely will say that. But let's just get it out of the way. Apart from, of course, what happened at the end, this wasn't a great episode. Another amazing episode. There were some great things about it. Really sad at times as well, especially for some characters. But let's just get into it because this was another great episode. Especially the beginning because we actually got the return of Bran. Of course, we did not see Bran at all last season. And we do finally get to see Bran this season. And I really love that we got to see him because he is a central character. But he's kind of a storyline that we got away from for a little bit. We see Bran lies into lair of the three-eyed raven. They're both blank-eyed, clutching his tree as birds squabble. They appear at Winterfell in the past, watching Ned Stark as a child jousting with his brother Benjen, and Lyanna Stark rides in on her horse and circles them. And Bran remembers Lyanna's statue in the crypt at Winterfell and how his family never talked about her. And they want Benjen to train with the stable boy Willis, who Bran recognized as a young Hodor. But old Nan pulls Willis away, and the three-eyed crow pulls Bran out of the vision. And I thought it was a really cool scene, the way that Bran was able to remember this stuff and get to see him before Bran becomes too comfortable in the vision. Bran calls Hodor Willis and tells him about what he saw, but Hodor only responds with the usual Hodor, and Bran asks where Meera is because he knows now that Hodor was different at one point, that Willis, was the stable boy Willis, and that he was different than that, and I'm wondering if Bran is maybe going to try to get Hodor back to his old self, but I think he's realizing that's not actually going to happen. So Bran then asks where Meera is, and Hodor carries Bran outside the cave. Meera is sitting in the snow. He tries to tell her what he saw about Hodor, but Meera's grown frustrated sitting at the cave, and Hodor carries Bran back inside, and, she just doesn't want to talk about it. Even though he wants to tell her what's going on, she just doesn't want to talk about it at the moment. So Hodor then carries Bran back inside, and the Child of the Forest tells Meera that Bran needs him, especially once they leave the cave, and basically, Bran definitely needs him. So they leave the cave, basically. So black, we see Alistair Thorne. Sorry about that, guys. My friend was telling me that my video was actually blocked, the video that I just uploaded, so anyway, let's get back to the episode. We see, after this, Alistair Thorne tells Davos that it's time. He says that they will send Ghost north of the wall. Davos and the men inside his room pull their swords, and now, this is one of the storylines obviously was most interesting, because as we know, Thorne does not trust most of the Watch right now. He knows that the Watch obviously murdered Jon, and he doesn't trust them because of that, and Thorne orders the door broken down. Just as the door crumbles, the gates of Castle Black are torn down by 1-1, and the wildlings pour inside. Tormund kills a couple men, giving the rest pause, and a man shoots an arrow into 1-1, and 1-1 splatters the man against the wall. The Night's Watch throws down its arms. Thorne accuses Ed of being a traitor, but Ed turns the insult around, and Tormund and Ed send the mutineers to the dungeons, and Ed brings Tormund to look on Jon's corpse. Tormund goes to gather wood for a funeral pyre, and they basically want to give Jon a proper funeral. Obviously, he died. They want to figure out what to do with his body, and they figure that they should give him a proper funeral, because they don't think they're going to be able to bring him back. So, in King's Landing, a man is telling an exaggerated account of Cersei's walk of shame, and it's kind of funny, but at the same time really sad, because we know what Cersei went through. We know how hard it was for her to go through what she did. We know the struggle she had to endure. I mean, it's really sad to watch, honestly. Seeing her having to do this definitely, I thought, was very sad. I really did feel bad for, I definitely did feel bad for Cersei in this situation. That was very hard to watch at points, definitely. Again, like I said, we know what she went through. We know the struggle that she had, what she had to endure, and that's really why, at times, this was very hard to, listen to. Definitely. So the man goes into an alley to relieve himself, and that's the thing with Cersei this season, is that I think we feel more for her, because she's had to deal with more than she had before. Before she had it all. She was this queen, she was power hungry, she had a son who was going to become king, she had Jaime, she had a daughter, and now she's lost a lot of things. I mean, sure, she still has Tommen, but her and Tommen are not really on the same page. She's lost Myrcella. Jaime and her have each other, and of course, she's lost her hair, she's not as powerful. She's got a reality check, and she's much more vulnerable than she used to be. And again, I'm not condoning what Cersei did. Like, of course, you know, the Red Wedding was still her fault. She was the main cause of it. But, and in many ways, she deserved what happened to her. But, like I've said before, no one should have to go through what Cersei did. I mean, it's pretty tragic what she had to go through. So the man goes into the alley to retrieve himself, and Sir Robert Strachan rocks up behind the man, smashes the man's skull against the alley wall. Crazy scene. But I think it's because you can tell that he's very much respects Cersei, and he doesn't want people just talking bad about Cersei. He doesn't want to think about it. He doesn't want to remember what Cersei had to go through. He knows the trauma that she went through. He knows how hard it was for her to go through, and you can see that he's really wants to protect her, and I definitely love seeing that. So Strachan enters Cersei's chamber, escorts her downstairs. Guards stop her, saying that the king has ordered her to stay in the Red Keep, and Cersei's determined to go to Myrcella's funeral. She thinks that, you know, she should be able to go, but she has to speak to Tommen, but he's already left, and you can tell that she's basically being shunned. Why? Because of the Walk of Shame. We know when you're shamed that it's very hard to get that reputation back, and of course, we know that he no longer, you know, that reputation that she used to have, you know, being respected and everything, it's no longer there. It's no longer there, which you definitely do see here, and it's quite sad, definitely. I really did feel bad for Cersei in this situation. Again, no one should really have to go through what she did, and the fact that she had to go through all this, it's really sad to see. So Jaime and Tommen look on Myrcella's body in the Sept. Tommen suspects that Cersei killed Trystane and that she's the one responsible for this, and Tommen says the High Sparrow wouldn't allow Cersei in the Sept. Tommen is regretting his past inaction when Cersei and Margaery were taken, and Jaime tells Tommen to ask for his mother's forgiveness. It's a really nice scene that basically he does want to, you know, that he should forgive his mother, and of course we know why, that Cersei didn't seem like she was okay with Tommen and Margaery marrying, but I like that Jaime's trying to tell him, no, you need to forgive Cersei. Obviously, you know, what you did wasn't necessarily your fault and everything, and you know, even the High Sparrow is not allowing Cersei in the Sept. So pretty much everyone seems to be, you know, just isolating themselves from Cersei because of her being shamed. And the High Sparrow enters. Tommen asks to see Margaery, but the High Sparrow denies him. Jaime sends Tommen to save Cersei and to see Cersei because he thinks it's the best thing for them to do. So the High Sparrow tells Jaime that they use the Ice Stones to remind them not to fear death, and Jaime wonders why the High Sparrow hasn't forced Jaime to atone for his own sins. And Jaime makes clear that he wouldn't hesitate to spill blood in the Sept. He would do something, you know, he will kill if he has to, and the High Sparrow welcomes it, but groups of sparrows surround the room. The High Sparrow speaks to the strength of the many poor over the wealthy and elite few, and Tommen does find Cersei, and we get this really nice scene here. She asks what color gown Myrcella is in, and Tommen apologizes for keeping her in the Red Keep. He says he didn't want to lose her, and Tommen regrets not coming for her, and because, you know, he really did want to help her. Obviously, he loves his mother, and Cersei enforced when she was captured, asked for Cersei's help to be strong. She replies always and hugs him, and you really do see that he seems like he's going to be the one to get Cersei back to where she belongs. And I feel like I said last week, I think Cersei is starting to understand why she kind of deserves this stuff. I think even though she knows that, you know, she knows she did wrong. She knows she did wrong. She knows what she did. And it's very sad to see, definitely. I really did feel bad for Cersei in this circumstance. No one should have to go through what she did. And it's just, it's really sad what had to happen to her. So Tyrion, Grey Worm, Varys, and Melisandre meet in the Great Pyramid. No new information of the burned fleet has been found. We know that something happened there, but nothing really seems to happen. And all of Slaver's Bay, minus Meereen, have returned to form under the control of the Masters. And the dragon haven't eaten since Daenerys left. Obviously, Daenerys was the one that really was their mother, and their mother's not there to feed them. Tyrion says the dragons must be set free or they'll waste away. But as we know, Daenerys basically told Tyrion that she wanted him to take over after she leaves. So Tyrion feels like this is pretty much his duty to be the one to do this. And I like that Tyrion already is acting like a leader. It's something that Tyrion needs. We know how lost, you know, he was, and, you know, how down in his luck he was in the beginning of last season. And now he really seems to have this newfound sense of confidence. Even though he knows that Daenerys is gone, he really feels that he's the one that can kind of lead them back to her. And Tyrion asks Melisandre if she was ever harmed by the dragon. She says no. Tyrion says the dragons are intelligent. They had no friend from enemy, and that they know friend from enemy. They know when someone's their friend, they know when someone's their enemy, and he needs to show them that he is their friend, and that they can, in fact, trust him, because he doesn't really know if the dragons really think of Tyrion as a friend right now, because obviously, you know, Daenerys isn't there, they don't know why, and Tyrion walks down the steps in the chamber where the dragons are kept beneath the Great Pyramid. I love this scene, by the way. Varys waits at the top of the steps. The dragons look out at him from the shadows. Tyrion speaks to the dragons, telling him how sad he was to hear the last dragon had died all those years ago, and he frees Rahegel, I think is how you pronounce it, Rahegel, and then Viseryn as well. He walks back up the steps as Varys looks on with astonishment, and he tells Varys that next time he has an idea, that Varys should punch him in the face, and that it does in fact work. It seems to work. It seems like he did get the dragons on his side, and the fact that he freed them, I mean, it sounds like a crazy idea, but it really seems like Tyrion is the one to get these dragons back to being allies and no longer just being, you know, on their side. It seems like he does actually want to help them lead the way, and I definitely love seeing that. So in Bravos, the waif again finds Arya begging in the street. Arya is a bit more prepared this time, but it still beats her and disappears, and Arya flails wildly until Jaqen finds her. He asks for her name 3 times, and Arya responds 3 times, "I have no name," and Jaqen tells her to follow him. So again, not entirely sure what's going on here. I'm still not entirely sure, but I feel like that's the point. I feel like we're supposed to get this sense of, not knowing what's going on, and this sense of, uncertainty. I feel like we're not supposed to understand what's going on here, because Arya in general doesn't know what's really going on either, and I think it's very interesting. I really like where this is headed, and you can tell that Arya really doesn't know how to control this. She's starting to understand it, but I think just like us, she doesn't really understand what's going on with her either, and I do like that, because I feel like the point of it is supposed to be this whole uncertainty situation that we really don't know what's going on there, because it's very interesting, and I can't wait to see what ends up happening with that. So Lord Karstock reports Roose and Ramsay Bolton, and reports Roose and Ramsay Bolton telling him that they lost Sansa, and they suspect that Sansa is headed to the Wall, which of course we know she is, and Ramsay suggests storming Castle Black to kill Jon Snow, and of course they don't know that Jon Snow is dead, and, that's something that they don't know, and Roose warns that this would unite the North against them, and that obviously it's not a good thing, and the Maester enters and reports that Roose has a healthy newborn son. Ramsay hugs his father, then stabs him in the gut, which I could definitely see him doing. I mean, we know the kind of pressure and what Ramsay's father has done to him, and that he's essentially the reason why Ramsay is the way he is, and Ramsay tells the Master to inform the houses of his father's death and to send Lady Walda and the baby, and it's clear that Ramsay wants to do this his way. He's going to do this his way or no way at all, and it just really shows how evil and powerful Ramsay really is. So Walda walks through the Winterfell courtyard. She finds Ramsay. Ramsay asks to hold the baby. Walda hands him over. Walda takes the baby back, saying that Lord Bolton sent for them and asking if Ramsay has seen him. Ramsay walks her to the kennels. Ramsay opens the kennel doors and tells Walda that he is Lord Bolton, and Walda pleads to leave. Ramsay whistles for the dogs, and they attack Walda and the baby, and basically, we see that which is crazy, that they attack Walda and the baby. I mean, we can see that Ramsay really doesn't seem to have any limits whatsoever, which is insane. But again, this is how he wants to go, and anyone that gets in his way is gonna die. It's crazy to see. So Theon carries wood through the snow. Brienne tells Sansa about her run-in with Arya and the Hound, and we know that that is where they're headed, that they want to find Arya, they want to free her, and she then asks Sansa about what happened at Winterfell, because she doesn't exactly know what's going on there, and Sansa says she should have gone with Brienne when she had the chance, and that just would have made things better. If she would have just listened to Brienne, she wouldn't have been in this situation. She wouldn't have been forced to marry, Ramsay. She wouldn't have been in the situation she was with the rape. None of that would have happened to her. And the sounds of horses startles Theon. Theon tells Sansa they shouldn't be lighting fires, and Sansa counsels that they'll be fine once they reach Castle Black. Theon says that he can't come with them, that he has too much to make up for. He asks for a horse and says that he plans to go home, and basically, he wants to just get out of there. He doesn't feel it's safe anymore. And again, they aren't sure if they're actually going to make it back, because they do want to get to Castle Black, obviously. That's the place they want to go, but they don't really know if it's the safest place right now. So, Yara informs Balon Greyjoy of their failed invasion of the North. She's disillusioned by the attempt to take the North, and they argue over having to try to rescue Theon. And Yara reminds Balon that they tried to take the North while the Northerners were gone to war, but they're back now. And she reminds him of how the last Greyjoy rebellion ended, but he remains stubborn and leaves. And of course, we know there's a war coming, so that's really the thing, that he seems kind of in denial about that. And Balon tries to cross a bridge, but he's stopped by his brother Euron. Euron wants Balon to step aside and let another rule, and Balon recalls having heard that Euron lost his money during a storm, and Balon claims to be the drowned god, to be the storm. Balon cuts Euron's face. Euron throws Balon over the side of the bridge, and obviously, Balon was being stubborn, so they pretty much had to kill him. I mean, he wasn't gonna fight. He didn't want to think war was coming. So Yara attends Balon's funeral, where he's returned to the sea. Yara vows to find out who did this and make them pay, and of course we know that it's Euron, and definitely, this is setting up a very interesting conflict. She's going to go after Euron. We'll see what happens with that. She swears, sits by the Salt Throne, but the damn purse says that the throne is not hers until she is chosen by the King's Moot, despite her father's wishes. So she does not deserve the throne right now, even though, you know, she wants to. It's not her throne, as we know. It's someone else's. So, basically, that's the situation that she's in. Very interesting what's going on there. And then we get the ending of this episode, which I know you guys want me to talk about. It's the thing that I know everyone wants me to talk about, definitely. Melisandre sits in front of the fire at Castle Black. Davos enters her chamber. Davos asks if Melisandre knows of any magic that could help resurrect Jon Snow. And even though Melisandre, we saw last week, is this old, just wretched, just beaten down woman that really is just dying if she doesn't hide her appearance, she says that there are some with this power. She recalls meeting Thoros, but says it shouldn't be possible. She really is skeptical. Like, she wants to help them, but she really isn't sure if it's actually going to work. So she says it isn't possible for her. Davos recalls seeing Melisandre drink poison and burn shadows, but Melisandre has lost faith, saying that the victory she saw in the shadows was a lie, and that the Lord of Lights never spoke to him. And that she really doesn't know if this is actually going to work, because Jon Snow didn't see that Lord of Light. And Davos says, fuck all the gods, but he's asking them he's not asking them for help, he's asking her. It's not about the gods, it's her that he's asking for. And it's mainly because Jon Snow didn't have that faith that everyone else did, and she's worried that that's not going to work. But of course, Melisandre is the one that needs to resurrect him. He's not asking for God's help, he's asking for Melisandre's help. So Melisandre claims the blood from Jon's body as his friends look on, and I love the uncertainty in the scene. You don't know if this is going to go well. You don't know if they were actually going to resurrect Jon Snow, and the many stab wounds become clear as she finishes. She clips several locks of Jon's head, facial hair, throws them in the fire, which is interesting to see Jon Snow without the famous, iconic hair that he always had. Of course, we always know the hairstyle that Jon Snow had. And basically, she pours water in his head. She then lays hands on his torso, speaks words of an incantation in a foreign language. She seems to struggle with the ritual, whispering please under her breath. She turns to Davos looking very defeated, and pretty much it does not seem like it's going to go well. I really thought that she was not going to be able to do this just because of how old she is. I mean, they revealed last week how old Melisandre exactly is. I can't remember the exact age that she is right now, but she's not young, definitely. She's not young. She's definitely very old, and this really shows how old she really is, which is very sad, definitely. I really did feel bad for her in this situation. But we see Davos looks on Jon. We see, basically, she seems to struggle with the ritual, whispering please into her breast. She turns to Davos looking defeated. Tormund leaves, the others follow. You don't really know if this worked out. Davos looks at Jon for a moment, then leaves, just goes sleeping in the room with the body. And they're pretty much thinking this failed, that this isn't going to go well. After Davos leaves, Ghost stirs, and Jon is alive. He wakes up, he's gasping for breath, and Jon Snow is actually alive. So, anything I said last week is not true. You can, in fact, resurrect characters on the show. You do have someone to do that, and it is, in fact, possible. And I love that they were actually able to resurrect Jon Snow. But now a lot of other problems come up. The fact that we know that, the rest of the watch isn't trusted right now. We know that Thorne and we know that Thorne really doesn't trust him, and we know, of course, what's going on there. So that's gonna be very interesting. We know that Ramsay wants to go after Jon Snow, and now that Jon Snow is alive, they can in fact go after him, and that's gonna cause a lot of problems. Let's see what happens with that. But it does prove that we could get that Stark reunion now, because Jon Snow is in the mix, and Sansa's concern for him last week and talking about reuniting with him. That can happen because Jon Snow, as we know, is alive, and I think it's very interesting to see what's going to happen with that. That's going to be very interesting. Is Jon going to be able to get the Watch back on his side? Because we know the Watch obviously turned against him. They're the reason that he was killed, and is he going to be able to get them back on his side? I'm not really sure. I feel like he thinks he can, but I feel like it's not going to be easy as Jon Snow thinks it's going to be. I think he wants it to be easy, but I don't really know if it's going to be as easy as Jon Snow thinks, which is going to be interesting to see what happens with that. That's going to be very interesting. What's going on, if they're going to be able to, if he's going to be able to get them on his side. I'm honestly not sure if he's going to be able to. I want to hope that he's going to be able to, but I don't really know. I mean, he really betrayed them in the sense that he didn't do what they wanted him to do, and he really went against, what he wanted to do over what they want him to do, and it really caused this detriment that I don't really know if he's going to be able to get back. He's really not isolated from them, but they obviously don't really trust him right now, so I don't really know if he's going to be able to get that back. So As far as the whole situation with Bran goes, I don't really know what that first scene's supposed to show. If Bran wants to help out Hodor and get him back to the man he used to be, we'll have to see what happens with that. That's going to be very interesting. And then as far as Cersei goes, I really love the direction they're heading with Cersei. With Cersei wanting to turn herself around, wanting to fix things, I think it's going to be very interesting. I feel like Tommen is the one to help her with that. Tommen's going to be the one to get her back on her feet. Tommen's going to be the one to get her back to who she used to be, and I can't wait to see how that's going to be, if he's going to be able to get her back to who she used to be, if he's going to be able to get her back to being liked by most people, because we can tell that already she's very much disliked. Everyone seems to make fun of her. Everyone seems to be going behind her back, and it's clear that Tommen does not like that. He does not want her to be insulted. This is his mother. He really does love her, and he wants her to be loved by everyone, but she's, of course, not loved by everyone. Everyone seems to dislike her, and we'll have to see what happens with that, and I'm looking forward to seeing really what's going to happen there. That's going to be very interesting. And then Jaime's advice as well, I thought was very good. I can't wait to see what happens with that. I'm sure we're going to see Myrcella's funeral next week. We'll have to see how that plays out, because that's going to be very interesting. Tyrion getting the dragons on his side. Obviously, Varys didn't think it was going to be possible, but it really does seem like Tyrion is the right person to, in fact, be the one to watch the dragons and to be the Khaleesi. Even though, you know, Daenerys is the Khaleesi, he could take over for Daenerys, and we really did see that it is possible for him to do that. And we didn't see Daenerys in this episode, obviously. We know where she is. I can't remember where she is exactly, but we know where she is right now. And it seems like he is going to be the one to free Daenerys. If he can get those dragons on his side, he can, in fact, free Daenerys, and I really do think it's going to be possible for him to do that. And I really do think that Tyrion is the most qualified leader in Meereen right now. He is definitely the one to do that. And as far as Arya and the Waif goes, again, I don't really know what's going on in the storyline. I want to say I do, but I still don't really understand it. I'm sure that Brienne, Sansa, and Theon, they are going to eventually meet up to her. Now, Ramsay talks about this gift in the next episode that is going to be delivered to him, and I'm thinking that Theon is going to be that gift. We'll have to see what happens with that. That's going to be very interesting. Overall, guys, not a ton of stuff to say about this episode. I definitely really did enjoy it. I mean, and then as far as Balon goes, I'm sure that Yara is going to find out that Euron killed Balon. How's he going to hide this from her? What's going to happen with that? Obviously, Yara wants power, but we can tell that Euron basically, you know, was the one that killed Balon. How is she going to react to this? What's going to happen to her? Is she actually going to kill Euron? We'll have to see. That's going to be very interesting as far as that goes. And then Melisandre, I think, is going to have this newfound confidence in her. You know, she really was convinced that she couldn't resurrect anyone, and that she really, it just wasn't going to be possible for her to resurrect someone like Jon Snow. She didn't think it was going to work, and it clearly did, and we'll have to see how that goes, because that's going to be very interesting as well. But over, guys, how much you guys saw this episode. Another great episode, in my opinion. So far, we've been on a streak of really great episodes so far. I hope that the other episodes are just as great, because I really did enjoy this one. Like I said, really great stuff. Really good season as well. I know a lot of people are enjoying the season, but I really think they're setting up the war. I think it's going to get really crazy, and I can't wait to see how that plays out. Nothing with, what's her name? I think of her name right now. You guys know who I'm talking about. The person that wants to hunt down all the Lannisters. I can't think of her name right now, but we know, obviously, she's going after them. We didn't get to see her in this episode, but we know that she's still going after them, so that's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out. Like I said, we know she's going after them, so I don't really know what's going to happen with that. But over, guys, if you guys saw this episode, love to hear your thoughts on it. Like I said, really did enjoy this episode, and we'll see you guys in my next show, which will be for tonight's episode of Fear the Walking Dead, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.